Hello, cinephiles, and welcome to Silver Screen Sips, a podcast where two idiots talk about movies. And today we are talking about Split. We have a guest with us today that's been with us before, Patrick Tomasso. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be back.
Yeah. Just a reminder, guys, too, that there are spoilers ahead for movies and TV shows that you may not have seen yet. So just know you've been warned. We are going to briefly, before we hop into our Week in Hollywood segment, we got to talk about Oppenheimer because
some more.
Yes, if you guys haven't gotten enough of it now, get ready for some more because Patrick here has had his own experience. In fact, he made a whole video on YouTube. You should go check it out. I just watched it today. I'm very behind on my YouTube. I have like 200 something videos in my watch later.
Oh
my God.
I know. It's bad. It just keeps getting higher. But yes, for those who have not listened to our previous episode with Patrick, he is a, what would you say, film enthusiast, YouTuber?
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
Photographer. You're a little bit of everything.
Professional uploader of things. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Professional. Yeah. You dabble in uploading.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge fan of his content on YouTube and everything and his Instagram. I don't have Twitter, but he's also on there. So go check him out.
X now. Don't forget X.
Sorry. Oh my God. I just hear a Tesla pulling up outside. It's just Elon. Oh man. Anyways, yeah. So tell us a little bit about, because you saw the 70 millimeter, right?
Yeah, there's for people that don't know, there's like 30 70 mil theaters in all of the world, 6 of which are in Canada, which I'm located in, and then 2 of which are in Ontario, which is the province that I live in Canada. And so one of them was about an hour away from where I live. And so I was like, if I'm going to see this movie, I might as well see it in one of the last 70 mil theaters that even exists everywhere. And of course, we were like the Thursday showing. I think it was actually the first show of that movie that weekend. It was like the Thursday 6 p.m. And everything was okay for the most part. Like you could tell that like they hadn't run this projector in a while. It was a little flickering, a lot of dust on the print, which was weird because it was a brand new print. So there was a lot of kinks that I could kind of already just sense that they were trying to figure out. Yeah. But then no spoilers. But after the Trinity test, so after the major thing we all know that happens in the story of Oppenheimer and the history of the world, about 10 minutes after that, the whole thing just shut down. So there was a lot of people in the room that were just like, is that the end of the movie? Like, is that, God. Like, what a swing, Christopher Nolan. The bomb goes off and then the movie ends, right? But essentially, the actual print broke. So they shut down and someone came in. There's a video I put up on YouTube about it and also on Twitter that kind of got some traction. And then I ended up doing like a media circuit that whole weekend. Because my video ended up being the one that people kind of just attributed to like the widespread issues that end up happening with this 70 mil print like across the world, right? Or at least North America. And so, it ended up getting fixed within like 10 minutes, which wasn't too bad. Obviously, you don't want your show of Oppenheimer to be disrupted. But it was a fun story. Like, I think part of the going to the movies is having a story. Like, remember when we went and saw this at that theater? Like, we don't get that much when we watch things at home. And so like having that experience and having that story was cool. I did get to see a full 70 mil, like uninterrupted at the same theater. They did a great job with it about a week later. And also we got free passes, which is fine. Nice. Overall though, I'm a huge fan of the movie. I loved it a lot. I've seen it 3 times now. I have round 4 actually next week. Cause I don't know if you feel this way. If you don't have a 70 mil near you, like obviously I have sympathy, but also just in general, I don't know how many more 70 mil IMAX movies we're ever going to get. And so I think I'm just trying to suck in as much of it as possible because I don't know if we're going to have another one of these in another 3-4 years. Maybe, who knows? Maybe it's only the next Nolan movie that will ever actually use it. I do know they just announced that they're extending it to the end of August. So they're giving people more time because I think originally it was only going to be a 2-week run for 70 mil. So every single show that I look at is sold out, which is insane. 2-3 weeks into a movie being out is just unheard of, let alone a premium price ticket that's like $25 in 70 mil. So I don't know. It's Oppenheimer fever. It's Oppenheimer summer, and it's pretty interesting.
I mean, yeah, it is crazy the amount of like issues that people were facing with watching it. I saw like not just with your video, but I saw just like scrolling through my feed, people being like, "Oh, I saw Oppenheimer, and yeah, it cut out," or like the color grading turned pink. Like I've seen a lot of things where they're like, "Oh, Oppenheimer became Barbie" or whatever. So it's like, It's
I had someone comment on YouTube, and I actually asked my audience to try and verify this, but they said that Disney Channel radio, like satellite radio, started playing halfway through the movie, which I think is like the funniest thing of all time. Like,
I don't know if that got a, I don't know if that was actually true, but I saw that.
You saw that, right? Yeah. I was like, that's so hilarious. I mean, if not, it's a great meme. I just think that's just a funny thing to think about.
It is.
But if that did happen, I don't know, stranger things have probably happened in a movie theater, right?
I have several comments to make about this. One, it's a 3-hour movie, so that blackout, you had an intermission. That's what that is.
Totally. Yeah. No, people left to go, take a pee, grab some more popcorn, and they actually treated it like an intermission. Yeah.
And then, what do you call it? The 70 millimeter. So my theater, the one that shut down, had a 70 millimeter. So we would have been. We said there was only like 630 in the country or in the world.
Would have had 31.
It would have been. We were 31.
Sorry. Yeah. You worked in a movie theater, right? You work at a movie theater. We talked about this.
Yeah.
Were you around during the 35 mil craze then? Like, were you they were still printing 35 millimeter movies? Versus a recent thing? It was all digital?
No, when I got there, it was all digital. So the last movie, I was there for Dunkirk. So when Dunkirk came around,
okay, sweet.
They did 70 millimeter. So we had it in 70 millimeter. The movie before that was The Hateful Eight.
Also 70 millimeter.
I just missed that one. So like when I came in, I wasn't there for that. But yeah, so I got to see Dunkirk in 70 millimeter. Amazing.
Nice.
However, I was so excited because if there's actually pictures, I can't share them because it's all like internal, but I'll describe it for you. When you get a 70 millimeter print sent to your theater, it comes in this giant ass, like 2-ton red box. It is undeniable. When it comes in, you know what it is.
Yeah.
Because it's really big and red, and it takes like 4 or 5 people to lug that thing up into your projection booth and then set it all up. And I'm kind of disappointed my theater got shut down before it came out because we were really hoping that we could last beyond that so that we could at least get the 70 millimeter print to come in, because I really, really wanted to see it in them loaded up and stuff.
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
When Dunkirk came in, our projectionists, the people who were in charge of our projection, weren't allowed to touch the film, like to do any of the film stuff with the old, because the 70 millimeter projector that was there, they weren't, even though it was ours, and the projectionists that were there have been there for years and used to do actual like film stuff. They obviously didn't work for Warner Brothers or anything like that, so they're like, yeah, we don't trust you. So they had to send in.
Oh wow.
So every theater that had a 70 millimeter projector had to have its own projectionist sent to the theater, and they had to hang out the entire run of the movie.
Yeah. Actually, I overheard that when we were sitting in the theater before it even started. I heard one of the employees talking to like a group that were behind us. And they mentioned the same thing. They had flown someone in from LA to run the print. So that person's just like living in Toronto now for a month, and their sole job is just projecting the IMAX 70 mil of Oppenheimer. I mean, it sounds like a fun gig, but I'm sure it gets repetitive after a certain point. But originally those contracts were only 2 weeks. So yeah, it's wild. Like there's nobody left that knows how to do it. There's hardly any theaters that can even do it to begin with. And so I don't know.
And it's already pushing the limitations of 70 millimeter. Like no one's done a 3-hour film before, and they had to expand the canister or whatever, the reel
the
holder.
platter.
The fact that he had to make his own film stock, he was like, nah, we're gonna make our own stuff today.
Gotta give props to him.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't say he's this is a hot take here, I wouldn't say he's my favorite director, but I think he's the most like respected in my opinion. Like I respect his work a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I also think he's like one of the few, because it keeps getting smaller and smaller, list of directors that you can just name drop to non-film people and they'll know who you're talking about. Like they've done a really good job marketing him as a brand. They keep that same like wide track text that we've been seeing since like the Dark Knight and everything in Batman. Like every single poster looks almost exactly the same. Like as much as like A24 is like its own brand, is like a production studio, like Nolan is a brand itself of like people kind of have a inclination of what they're going to get into when they market a Nolan movie, right? So I like that because it's like we don't have many. We have Scorsese and Spielberg and stuff like that. You can just sort of name drop, but Nolan I think is definitely in that company.
Right. No, I agree. I think the only one that kind of comes close is Spielberg, just because he's got his portfolio is movies that I feel like everyone's seen at least one Spielberg movie in their life.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, like I don't love every Christopher Nolan movie. Like actually everyone, like Memento is probably one of my least favorite of his, and that seems to be like one of the first that most people mention. But I do like.
What do you think about Tenet?
I've learned to love Tenet in its own weird kind of way. Like it's not my favorite movie of all time, but I have seen it a lot. I've seen it probably like 6 or 7 times because I do try to find like an access point with it that I've never really actually accomplished. But it's like a vibe movie that I can just throw on like in the background while I'm doing work and stuff. Like, I don't know. I like the mood of it. Obviously I love Rob Pattinson and stuff. Like, so there's just a mood to that movie that I really enjoy. I don't think it's a fantastic movie, but there's something about it that is alluring to me, and I can't quite put my finger on it.
We could talk about this for the entire
Forever.
podcast,
Yeah,
honestly. Yeah. So,
Insert Disney music here.
yeah, let's start bringing in Disney radio. Let's hop into this week in Hollywood, starting with the first headline. We actually, speaking of A24, since you were just mentioning them a second ago, the directors behind Talk to Me, which is the current horror film that is making bank at the box office, has stated that a prequel has already been shot and is ready to go. And then they also, I think, just announced today, August 8th, that they just got greenlit for a sequel. So looks like we have a trilogy in our hands, Isaiah. We might have to put this in the franchise list here.
Weird, because X, they did the same thing with X. Like,
I want to see X. I have to.
Great. I watched that recently. That was a recent watch for me. I was trying to fill that blind spot. It was good. I haven't seen the sequel, but X was great. Yeah.
That was Maya Goth in it, right? Mia
They
Goth.
did the same thing though, like making a random trilogy out of nowhere. Like the X came out, and by the time X was like done in theaters, they already was like, hey, by the way, in like 4 months, the second one's coming out. And by the time that was done, they were like, oh, by the way, the third one's coming out. Or like, you guys made a trilogy in 1 year? What is this? You guys were
that's
really
insane.
on it.
Well, the director, Danny Filippo, I believe is how you say his last name, stated in an interview that, quote, "We actually shot an entire Ducket prequel already. It's told entirely through the perspective of mobile phones and social media." Yikes. So maybe down the line we can release that, end quote. Talk to Me obviously is in theaters now. Definitely go watch it. I still need to watch it.
I haven't seen it yet either.
Being a huge fan of horror and also a huge fan of A24. And not gonna lie, I used to be a huge fan of Rocka Rocka. So Rocka
I was
Rocka.
gonna say, like, it is interesting. The main reason I think I want to see it is because they were YouTubers. Like, I just think that's interesting that they made that jump. Yeah.
And they made most of their videos were so funny.
Yeah, totally. And I've been watching interviews with them since it came out, and they just seem like really interesting, like an interesting duo of people. And like their philosophy around filmmaking is really interesting to me because it reminds me of what it's like to make YouTube videos. And so the fact that they're in this like studio world now and they seem to be doing what they wanted to do, and they've kind of made their own path is really interesting to me because it's something I would obviously want to do.
Right.
And as I think it's like, you know, I can understand it's different than X because like that seems to be coming from like the regular sort of studio format. The fact that these guys already had a prequel shot like makes sense to me because that's how you would sort of do YouTube. Like they would just run at it and just film this stuff without even having approval for it, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like the sequel though is probably something they're planning now because that movie did so well. So I'm really curious to watch, and I feel like the prequel will just probably be some sort of like mini thing they probably release online before the sequel comes out.
Yeah, probably. It definitely was like we've had this prequel in our minds for quite some time, like just maybe as long as the original, but then the sequel, was like, oh, you know, this is getting a lot of money. We should make more.
Absolutely.
Have you guys ever heard of Mr. Guitar Man?
Absolutely. He did that Netflix movie, the space one. I forget what it's called, the Captive or something, or Stowaway. Stowaway, is that
Stowaway,
it?
yeah.
Stowaway, yeah.
Yeah. He actually, what do you call it? He did his first movie actually was Arctic in 2018 with Mads Mikkelsen. What's his name? Mads Mikkelsen.
No, Matt. Yeah. He's like trapped in a plane crash, right? I didn't realize he did that movie too. That's crazy. Yeah, that's a really cool story too. The Mr. Guitar Man stuff.
There's a lot of YouTubers that are just becoming like directors now. Like what's his name? Markiplier.
Chris Stuckman too.
We don't talk about Shane Dawson though.
No, we never talk about Shane Dawson. No, but Markiplier is coming out with his own.
What's it? Is it Iron Lung?
Yes.
I'm very curious because I know like Markiplier got to start in doing like horror movies, like not horror video games and stuff like that. So I'm very curious on how he's going to handle making a horror movie based off a video game.
He's played. I mean, that's like one of his bigger games that he played was Iron Lung, and I think that's why he wants to do it. And I think he played. Like I want to say it was like Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm not a big. I mean, I don't watch him religiously, but like the clips I've seen, he's played a couple horror movies or horror games.
I think it's gonna be weird to see him in a non-comedic, to do something non-comedic. Yeah. Even when it's horror, it's still funny because like, you know, there's like funny moment compilations of him playing horror games, and so I think it's gonna be interesting.
Agreed. All right. On to the next headline with Isaiah.
Next headline: Oppenheimer. Oh, back to Oppenheimer.
Yeah. Sorry.
Liqueur. It is past $500 million in the global box office, and after only a few weeks in theaters, it's like week 3, I believe. While audience members can't get enough of Oppenheimer, unfortunately for them, they won't be able to find extra sequences when the feature is released in home media formats. During the recent interview with Collider, Cillian Murphy explained why deleted scenes are hard to find when it comes to movies made by Christopher Nolan, stating there's no deleted scenes in Chris Nolan movies. That's why there's no DVD extras on his movies. The script is the movie. He knows exactly what's going to end up in the end product. He's not fiddling around with it, trying to change the story. That is the movie. That sounds right for him. I don't feel like he would.
Yeah, I can see him being like, why do you need extra content? This is all you need.
But the thing is, like, Nolan is actually really good at doing behind the scenes stuff. Like, if you ever get his physical media releases, like the Blu-rays and stuff, there is like some, I mean, Oppenheimer had a whole like marketing campaign on how they've shot it and stuff like that, to the point where I didn't even bother wanting to make like a cinematography video about it. I feel like it's already all out there. But he like his stuff is really good, and as much as you don't get like extra content in terms of like a scene that probably was cut from the movie because they just shoot the script as it is. His behind the scenes stuff in terms of like the actual technical stuff of the filmmaking and how they come to things. Like you can go on YouTube and watch like 3 hours of stuff on the whole Batman trilogy, and it's just fascinating to see like the progression from Batman Begins to Dark Knight Rises, and all the Batmobile stuff and all that, whatever they came up with. He's a really like open filmmaker for how like smart his brain is, right? Like he's accessible in a way that you're not. It's kind of shocking. There
was a video of him trying to explain, I think, it was Memento. It was
with
him
the chalkboard, right?
Yeah, with the chalkboard, and everybody's like,
so
okay, he's like, I'll break it down for you, and then he starts like writing on a chalkboard, and by the end, like 15 minutes later, you're like, I think I get it.
Yeah, I still have no idea. I was rewatching Memento recently because I've been doing like a Nolan retrospective since Oppenheimer, and that's still the one I don't love all that much. But I also, if you go on YouTube and search like Tenet explainers, like that's a whole niche too. There's people that have like made CGI things of like trying to figure out like how the machine works and like the way people are going forward and backwards. It's impossible. I don't understand it at all.
I think that's what he wanted though, because he's very like recently he's been like, oh yeah, if you don't understand it, it's not really about understanding, it's about feeling it, of being like, okay, I'm understanding because I'm vibing with it. Like, with Tenet, like that's what he's kind of going for sometimes. Totally,
yeah. It's just like a vibe movie. It reminds me of like Michael Mann's Miami Vice, whereas like you can watch that movie and you don't really care about the plot of it, but there's just like a mood to it, the way it's shot and the music and everything. And you just sort of vibe out. It's like listening to music almost. You're just kind of chilling with it and just hanging out. It's like a hangout movie. It's interesting.
Yeah,
100%. Now, get ready for a controversial headline here.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Jamie Foxx has apologized after a post he made on Instagram that drew accusations of anti-Semitism. Yeah. So Fox's post on Instagram read, quote, this is not me saying this is Jamie Foxx, okay? Quote, they killed this dude named Jesus. What do you think they'll do to you? Hashtag fake friends, hashtag fake love. Now, the 55-year-old entertainer deleted the post after fellow users asserted it echoed the hateful belief that Jewish people altogether as one were behind killing Jesus Christ. Now, the actor has since apologized to the Jewish community, stating that the post was directed towards a, quote, fake friend who betrayed him.
I really want to know what's going through his mind. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
I didn't take that as anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
I didn't take that as anti-Semitic, but it just seems like a really weird thing to put out in the public like that.
Just randomly. Like, yep, that's a good one.
If you have a big platform, like if it's just some friend, like who are you trying to, like, why are you being cryptic? What's the point? If you're a celebrity, you can't be cryptic, right? Like I never really understood
everyone's going to dissect you that. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And then I saw like the way I saw that story kind of pop up in my feed was that Jennifer Aniston that put it on her Instagram story, like just completely denouncing him as a person, essentially.
Oh man.
With a whole like scripted, like a whole like text, like being like, I don't endorse this and all this kind of stuff. And it was just like, oh my, and it just snowballs, right? So then every celebrity has to say something. It's just a whole nightmare.
Is what? Jennifer Aniston what?
Is she Jewish?
I'm not sure, actually. I don't know.
That would make sense that she would, because that would just feels weird that she would do that. Unless her and Jamie Foxx are really close or something.
I don't know. I don't even think they have. I can't even think of like a movie they've done together. So I'm not sure.
Yeah. It's just like, why would you even post that? I just don't get it.
Makes no sense. And it sucks because he just came back from being like, he had a stroke or something, right? So everyone was giving him a lot of support because he was just sick, and it was like people were. It seemed like he was kind of touch and go there for a minute too, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's sad to see that, like, that's your comeback, and obviously he's going through it with something because he's enough to kinda, yeah, exactly.
Friend.
Yeah, exactly.
You should have added the man or woman.
Totally. Yeah, if you're gonna be a celebrity, just like go all out. Like if you're gonna be, if you want to be a transparent celebrity, then be transparent. But this whole crypto thing does it, like, as someone who's like gained a marginally small following, you can't be cryptic. There's absolutely no reason for it. And you're either your shit is all out there, or you should keep it all to yourself, right?
Yeah, agreed. All right, Isaiah, what do you got?
Hasbro and Lionsgate are currently developing a Monopoly live action movie.
Oh, God.
So are they just gonna film Jeff Bezos?
Yeah.
Is that the plan?
This is the nightmare that we didn't want to happen because of Barbie. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's totally the wrong way to, it's the wrong learning to come out of that movie, is that we should make more toy-based fucking IP stuff, right?
It's 100% because of it too.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but Mattel said they wanted to make like 40, they want to make 45 other movies based on all of their products to make a Barbie cinematic universe. We don't need it.
I only need the one, please.
Yeah, I'm good with the one. That's fine.
Did you watch Barbie?
I did see Barbie. Yeah, I liked it. It was fun.
Okay. Yeah, it was fun.
But yeah, so back in 2015, it was announced the famous man with the mustache was getting his own movie, but no news about the project has been shared since right now. Other board games have been turned into movies, such as Clue, Dungeons & Dragons, and Ouija. Or Ouija? Ouija board. So who knows what this will come. I mean, like, sure, I guess.
It's just like, do we need another movie with a rich white man?
Yeah, seriously. Do we just need, I'm just sick of, I'm just personally sick of just like IP in general, right? It's like this.
Yeah,
like,
I'm sick of people doing all these remakes.
Yeah.
It's like, do something original.
Totally.
I think they would have to make it, they have to go in the same vein as Barbie of like, they know what it is and they can't take it too seriously. Like, I just don't see, like, you can't do this in any serious way of being like, other than like a stupid comedy making fun of itself.
Yeah, that's the problem with like what I've seen from the Gran Turismo movie. Like, it's just so sincere. Like, it's trying to try to be like a legitimate like Ford v Ferrari or something like that, or like Days of Thunder type movie, as opposed to being what should have been probably like a goofy, silly movie about a racing game.
Yeah.
Like I'm open-minded to it because I'm curious to see Neil Blomkamp do another movie that, you know, because he's been riding that train since District 9 or whatever it was called. And for me, I'm like, I like the director and he's had a string of misses. So like, sure, but why does it have to be Gran Turismo? Like, that's the one he had to come back with. Like, it's really confusing.
At least there's a somewhat of a story there, like with the true story of, you know, they took back. Yeah. At least there's a little bit of meat there. I just feel like with Monopoly, there is no story.
No.
Like,
other than Clue, a white man owning everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Clue makes sense because it's like, okay, it's a murder mystery. That's easy. Dungeons and Dragons. There's so many stories.
Ouija makes sense. Okay, like a horror thing, like you're gonna unlock the demon world or something like that. Like, there's something to it for sure.
What are you gonna do with Monopoly? I cannot fathom.
The Big Short. It's gonna become
it's gonna be with the 2008 it's gonna be the housing crisis. Yeah.
Oh my God. It's just Wolf of Wall Street.
Exactly.
Ah, man. All right. Well, let's talk about Barbie. Since we're just mentioning it. Yeah. Now, obviously, the movie is very successful as it just crossed the $1 billion mark in the global box office, making it the first solo female directed movie ever to reach that goal. Now, the closest to come to it. Yeah, the closest to come to it was back in 2019 with Captain Marvel, which, in my opinion, was a flop. But that film was co-directed with a male, so it doesn't count. Now, Barbie is only the second film this year after the Super Mario Bros. Movie to achieve the $1 billion landmark. But while it took Super Mario Bros. 4 weeks to reach its goal, Barbie only took 3. So congrats, Greta, for making history, I guess.
Good job.
Props to you, man. Girl. Props to you, girl. I just ruined the whole point of that message. Isaiah, shut me up.
Shut you up. More Barbie. Mattel has introduced a Weird Barbie doll based on Kate McKinnon's character in the film. Weird Barbie doesn't just look like her film version. She can also move like McKinnon's character. She's capable of making similar hand and arm gestures and can do the splits. Weird Barbie is available for pre-order.
Which I think every Barbie doll can, but okay.
Yeah, isn't that like
something that's like, I think they all do that. Yeah.
Pre-order is available until August 18th and is expected to ship on or before May 31st, 2024.
That's a while away. It's only $50.
They are really milking this one.
Oh yeah, they're gonna do every single Barbie.
Yeah.
stereotypical Barbie, but it looks like Margot Robbie, and it's really just a Barbie doll with blonde hair.
Margot Robbie.
Yeah. It's like, no, it's Margot Robbie.
Yeah, isn't Weird Barbie supposed to be the one that like you make yourself too? Like you're not supposed to be weird out of the box. Like that's you make
it's supposed
Weird
to be
Barbie
like
out of a normal Barbie, right?
Like it would be a better. Oh my God, Mattel, listen up. This is the perfect idea. You get a Barbie doll, a standard one. You give it it comes with a couple accessories. So she has a dress that's like just white, and it comes with some markers, and you can color all over the Barbie doll, and you can color the dress and make it into a Weird Barbie doll. So it comes with like all the accessories. Come with somehow safe scissors to cut the hair, something like that. I think would be a little more fun and creative instead of like, here's the doll already weird. Instead, you can put your own like spin on it, and it becomes like your own unique doll.
Love it.
But right there, $1 billion deal or idea right there. But too late, Mattel. I already patented it. Well, anyways, that concludes This Week in Hollywood. You can find all of our sources cited on our Discord channel. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm already a glass of wine in, but I could use another drink. So we are going to hop right into Big Lou's Big Brews for our next drink. Now, today... Oh, yes.
Sorry, I just got a news alert that said there's a new Jurassic World trailer.
What?
Wait, what?
A news alert. Oh my God.
This is Jurassic World trailer takes the franchise underwater.
Oh God.
Hold up. This might just be like fake.
I didn't even know they were making more of these.
Live in the studio here, folks. Breaking news.
We've been bamboozled.
Been duped. Oh man.
I think we've been duped. I haven't read the full article, but basically, Pratt was going around touring for Super Mario Brothers, and someone mentioned something about Jurassic World, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I would love to do more about that with the Mosasaur, the underwater dinosaur."
I'm so surprised he wants to do. Why would he want to do more of those movies? I guess because they make so much goddamn money, right? Yeah.
Dude, you could do so much more.
Oh, it's for evolution. Those sons of bitches. Okay, no,
those sons of bitches.
There's a trailer, but it's what do you call it? It's the prehistoric marine species pack for Jurassic World Evolution 2, the video game. So it's a trailer, God. But it's not for the movies.
Clickbait at its finest.
And of course, there's a video game too.
Oh yeah,
actually, it's pretty fun. It's like Zoo Tycoon, but instead of animals, you got dinosaurs.
Nice.
Anyway, let's get to drinking.
Yes. Yeah. After that headline. Okay. Now, just as a disclaimer, obviously, while dissociative identity disorder (DID), formerly known as multiple personality disorder, has experienced controversies in the medical world of mental health. Obviously, this podcast, Silver Screen Sips, does not intend to disrespect the condition, make fun of, or endorse any of the stigmas associated with this film, as noted by mental health advocates. Thanks, Lewis, for that disclaimer.
His inner medical degree is coming out.
Yeah, it really is. So today we are talking about the Fog Cutter cocktail. Obviously, we're following a theme on split-based cocktails, so there are variations of traditional cocktails with multiple liquors to serve as a base for this. Now, the classic tropical cocktail Fog Cutter uses rum, gin, brandy, and sherry. With many tiki classics, you'll find many slight variations on the build, but here is the most common recipe. Here's how we're going to start it off with a 1/2 ounce of almond Orgeat syrup. Orgeat, we never figured out how to pronounce that word. 1.5 ounces of light rum, 1/2 ounce of gin, 1/2 ounce of brandy, 1/2 ounce of orange liqueur, 1/2 ounce of dry sherry, 1 ounce of orange juice, and 1 ounce of lemon juice. It's a lot of ingredients. So you're going to shake all the ingredients together, serve it over crushed ice, and then it's brightened with a blend of fresh lemon and orange and sweetened with the Orgeat. Now, the cocktail has more rum than anything else, but if you make it without the gin and brandy, it would be a very simple and somewhat one-note drink. Obviously, combining the high notes of a botanical gin, the fruity base notes of brandy with the nuttiness and acidity of sherry make for a super unique trifecta of alcohol. I like that. Now, the orange liqueur and the Orgeat anchor anchor the citrus blend just as they do in a classic Mai Tai. And the fog cutter ends up with a much wider breadth of flavor while staying perfectly balanced. I wouldn't have thought these flavors would fit so perfectly together, but with the glue of citrus and almond syrup, it makes perfect sense. So that's your drink. This is a little bit of a long one.
Does it taste like almonds? That's my real question.
No, not really. You only have like a half ounce in there, so I can't imagine it being super overbearing, but you never know.
Rum, gin, brandy, orange liqueur, dry sherry, orange juice, and lemon juice. There's a lot going on in this one.
Almond and citrus.
Yeah, basically. So, what are you guys thinking? Like, Patrick, what would you rate this on a scale of 1 to 5? Would you order it if you were out?
I would order it.
Out on the
I feel like it comes with a little. Yeah, I feel like it comes with a little umbrella. It's so citrusy, so I'm into it.
Yeah,
and almonds. I don't know.
probably
For some
is
reason, I feel
fancy.
like it feels tropical. I don't know why.
Unfortunately, I am struggling to find a photo of it. So, otherwise, I would show you guys. But I guess stay tuned on that. But yeah, I think it sounds somewhat pretty okay. Isaiah, what do you think?
I give it like a 4 out of 5. I'd try it.
Yeah.
A 4 out of 5. Okay.
I like citrus.
I think there's a lot of ingredients. I think that's my biggest like turn off from this. Is just it's a lot to like. I'm thinking it more in a mixology point of view. Like if someone were to be like, "Oh, can you make me this?" I would hate them.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just because it's a lot of steps. But if I were to order this, I'd probably give it like a 4 out of 5 as well. It sounds fine.
Definitely you're ordering at a fancy restaurant.
Oh yeah, it's definitely like a $12 drink.
$12.
Now, obviously, the reason this ties into the movie is so it's called the fog cutter. And a note on the word fog, we can relate it to the fugue state associated with various dissociative conditions or the quote brain fog associated with depression. Lewis really ate this one up. This is right up his alley.
He was having a grand old time.
Yeah. Lewis is a very into mental health. That's not the right way to word that.
Very into depression.
He's all for it. No, that's not at all what I was trying to say. That's what he's kind of going to school for, is like counseling and stuff like that. So
cool.
It's right up his alley. But thank you, Lewis, for the drink. So it's a good one. Strong ratings all around, it seems. All right. Enough gibberish out of my mouth. Isaiah, would you mind taking a moment to do our sponsor read? I'm going to look up how to pronounce Orgeat while you do that. Go ahead.
Orgeat. It's pronounced Orgeat.
Orgeat? Oh. Orgeat. Okay, I'll remember that. It is not saying Orgeat origin.
It's like
it is French. Yeah.
And then like ZHAAT. Orgeat.
Yeah. Orgeat. Okay. Anyways.
Thanks everyone for listening to today's episode, and thanks Patrick for joining us once again. It says plug Patrick, but
that's not our sponsor seg. That's our outro.
I feel sufficiently plugged.
I went too far in the document. Oops.
Yeah, you went to the end of our notes.
Well, you've been plugged once more. I would like to take a moment to thank the sponsor of today's episode, Shaker and Spoon. It's a monthly subscription service that gives you bar quality recipes and ingredients designed by award-winning mixologists. Their latest box, Summer Scotch 3, features amazing cocktail recipes for Scotch lovers, if you're into that. If you'd like your very own subscription, then head on over to shakerandspoon.com and use our promo code SIPS10 to get $10 off your first subscription. Again, that's promo code SIPS10 and take 10 sips for us to get $10 off.
Nice. Like the little ad lib there. Well, after that, let's hop right into Beth's question of the day. So I have so it's not really like a fun one.
That's depressing.
No, it's just more of like a thinker. Okay.
More like a stinker, am I right?
Yeah, kind of. All right. So obviously throughout the film, we're able to see like most of Kevin's 24 personalities, right? Especially during the one scene where they're just playing back to back to back on the computer. So this is kind of a two-parter. So the first part is, who was your favorite personality out of all of them? Who did you enjoy to, watch on the screen? And then the second part is, which personality do you think James McAvoy portrayed best?
I think I can answer it with the same personality, Patricia. I feel like
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. There's something just the way James portrayed them. I don't know. There was like a sassiness to it, and you could just see he was like really enjoying it. And I thought they were the most sort of interesting of all of them as well.
That's the like kind of the motherly one you're referring to. Yeah,
totally.
Okay. That's a good.
It was also the one. It's also the one that like. I also feel like through the marketing of the film, that was the first time they reveal the multiple personalities too. Because I remember that like in the trailer, they kind of look through and they see the skirt and the heels and stuff, and they're like, "What the hell's going on?" And then you realize it's still James McAvoy, and you're like, "That was like a mini M. Night Shyamalan twist in the trailer itself," which I thought was really cool. So I think that's maybe why Patricia stuck the most.
That's true. That's a good point. I didn't really think about it like that. Isaiah?
I think. I'm trying to think on. I thought this is not the one we'll go with, but I just thought it was funny the guy who's like a super historian, and so all he talked about is just historical like things.
That was good.
Yeah, but I think I agree. I think I have to go Patricia. You can tell she's like the fact that even though it's still just James McAvoy, that the way he kind of acts it out is that she's like a very conniving.
Yeah,
she's very conniving. She's very thoughtful. Like she's obviously playing a chess, like 4D chess with everybody.
Totally.
It's just in the way she kind of just holds herself, the way James McAvoy like portrays that. So I'd say she's my favorite too, because you can tell that like she's the one running the show. Like Dennis is there running the show, but he's definitely like the not the sidekick, the henchman. He's the henchman situation, but she's the one running the show.
Yeah. Huh. I was not expecting you guys to say Patricia at all.
Nice.
Patrick and Patricia.
There you go.
There's a connection there. Yeah.
How about you?
I think I would have to say my favorite to watch was Hedwig.
Hedwig is fun too. Yeah, for sure.
I think he's just funny, and like the little like etc. Like that's so funny to me when he says that, because it's like kids do that where they learn a new word and they'll just repeat it over and over, like the apparently kid.
Kind of tricky. Etc.
Etc. Yeah. I loved him. I mean, I want to say that I think he portrayed him the best, but I also kind of think that after you guys mentioned Patricia, I was like, oh man, he did do a good job with Patricia too. So it's kind of a tie, I think, with performance.
The thing is, James is so good in this movie that like every single personality works, right? There's not really much like throwaway. The performance as a whole is just like unprecedented. It's crazy. And
the way he switches in between, like you can see like his like how he goes from portraying the mannerisms of one character and just gradually switching over to the other is very well done. You did a good job. Now, this is not part of my question, but I just thought of it. So you said the M. Night Shyamalan twist thing, which is kind of what made me think of this. So obviously in the trailer, that's kind of like the twist, but like in the movie, what do you guys think do you think the big twist was like him being like, there's 24 personalities, the beast is real? Like, is that the twist?
We can do spoilers, obviously, right? We talked about that. We can go right into it.
Oh, yeah.
Guys,
this whole episode is about Split. You better have seen it.
This movie has a lot of layers of spoilers, right? Or not spoilers, of twists. Because sure, the 24 personalities is interesting in itself. But then there's also like the overarching thing you're thinking throughout the entire movie is that does he actually have like some sort of like the beast? Is the beast real, right? Like that's sort of looming throughout the entire movie. And then of course, by the end of it, you're not really sure either way how that sort of works. But then the major twist is that Bruce Willis shows up at the end, right? And then you're like, holy shit, this is a sequel to Unbreakable, right? Like that is like that's the real twist. But M. Night's usually always really good. The problem with M. Night Shyamalan as a brand, like we were talking earlier about like Christopher Nolan's brand as a filmmaker, like Shyamalan's whole brand has been twists. Since Sixth Sense, since everything, right? Since Signs, you're always like crescendoing to this moment in the final act that like something's going to be revealed, whether it's the fact that everything was real or it wasn't real, or he's actually a superhero or what the hell's going on. And I think that's like to a fault sometimes with his movies. And I think that's why he had a bit of a dry spell there leading up to Split, right? Because he had that brand in the 90s, like late 90s. And then he had a few misses that didn't quite follow that same formula. And so this was like a little bit of a return to form for the way he was kind of known for making movies. And then he just went all out with it. He's like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm making like my own MCU essentially here with these characters. And then of course we got Glass afterwards as well, right? So yeah, like that to me is like seen. Yeah, Glass is interesting. I don't think it's anywhere near as good as Split. It's not something I even recommend like rewatching or anything like that. It was fine, but it doesn't hold a candle to Split in terms of just like being a really good standalone film. Even with the twist at Bruce Willis at the end, I still like that movie on its own, even if they didn't do Glass. Like, obviously, I love Unbreakable. I think Unbreakable is one of my favorite M. Night Shyamalan movies. So just seeing that, I was like, holy, like I was into the movie and I enjoyed it and it was great. Like, it wasn't the best thing in the whole world, but like I love James McAvoy's performance and all that. But when Bruce Willis showed up, like that really blew me away in the theater because I hadn't been spoiled on it. So if you were able to see Split without knowing that Bruce Willis showed up at the end, that was like a really high point for movie theater experiences for sure.
Oh yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for answering my questions. I guess questions. Those were unexpected but appreciated answers. Now, Isaiah, I think last episode you didn't have a lot of facts, but hoping this time around there's a little bit more.
Prepare to be disappointed.
Okay. Lay down.
I went around looking for some facts. There's not a lot though. Like even behind the scenes stuff, it's not much going on. It's very straightforward. But let's see how it goes. Now the role of Kevin Wendell Crumb, spoiler, his name, was actually written with Joaquin Phoenix in mind, and he was set to actually star in it.
Okay,
I could see that. You know why? Because he had worked with it. Yeah, he works with him on Signs and The Village, right? So like Joaquin and M. Night had a relationship already. I'd actually love to see them work together again, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I saw something about that actually, but I had a thought and I just lost it.
Here's my take. I don't think Joaquin. This is probably a hot take, but I don't actually think Joaquin could have done as good a job as McAvoy did here.
Whoa! I'm just kidding. It's not a hot take.
Because like Joaquin's obviously incredible and he can like immerse himself into a character, but there's still like a really strong element of Joaquin in everything that he does, which is a good thing. I think it's like part of why he's so great at acting. But like McAvoy, like because he hasn't done something like this really much before, and like he's always been a really talented actor, but this like completely put all his talents on display. And I really don't think that McAvoy even gets the credit he deserves for this performance, right? Like maybe because it's in an M. Night Shyamalan movie and it was like people treated it a little bit more like it's like lower tier, like because at the time M. Night was on that dry streak.
Yeah.
But I think over time, you know, this is obviously like already it was incredibly successful, but I think this performance will have its own sort of like cult classic following. Unfortunately, Glass exists, which is like not the greatest follow up. But if we were to just look at Split on its own, that is like of the last like 20 years, one of the like I'd put it up there with Cillian Murphy in Oppenheimer. Like it's that good of a performance of someone in a career.
Oh yeah,
and not many people get those in their career, right? So yeah, I don't know. Phoenix is amazing. I love him and everything, but I think they made the right choice with McAvoy.
Yeah. So Joaquin, obviously James McAvoy got the job, but it's because Joaquin Phoenix, I guess like there was a problem with the contract, and then he also took a break from acting, I guess at that point, something like that. So it didn't really work out. And then Shyamalan was just walking through a Comic-Con, just happened to run into McAvoy and was like, "Hey,
there you go.
Let's talk." And they talked. And he was like, he thought, and then after having like a conversation with him, and he had just finished doing X-Men, so he was still bald, like he didn't really have much hair on his head. And then he was like, "Ooh, this guy, he's gonna be my Split. He's gonna be my Kevin Wendell Crumb."
What a great word, Kevin Wendell Crumb. What a great name.
It really is. It's like his name in that movie is like equivalent to like Voldemort.
Yeah, but it's also like it would not be out of place in like a Willy Wonka movie or something, right? Like,
yeah, it really does. It really does sound like like a I don't know, like a
name or
cartoony, video game character.
Yeah. So now the character of Kevin had been. Now it's funny is that we were always talking about how he didn't. What do you call it? We never planned this for a sequel, but then he was thinking about it for like 15 years. Kevin was actually in one of the early drafts for Unbreakable.
Interesting.
However, he pulled the character out, stating that there were some balancing issues at the time, like pacing and storytelling and stuff like that. So he just took the character out entirely.
I guess that's a good idea.
Yeah, Unbreakable's so good.
I think throwing him in would have been a little like what?
Now there is the director's cut of this movie is 3 hours long.
Wow.
Whoa. That never got released, did it?
No, I don't think it got released.
Okay.
However, there is like the director's cut of the movie that he said that he made is 3 hours long, and it actually included a role with Sterling K. Brown in it. He played the neighbor of the psychiatrist, but in the only isn't going to be in that 3 hour cut because in the theatrical cut, obviously Sterling K. Brown entire character is taken out of the movie. So his role, his entire role is cut. But he those scenes you can find, like if you have the DVD, it's in the DVD extras and under deleted scenes, so you can watch those like scenes, but it doesn't like encompass the whole 3 hour cut of the movie.
Interesting.
Damn.
I love Sterling K. Brown. I mean, must have really been filler if they cut him out, right?
I'd be kind of mad to be him. I'd be like, man, dude, you didn't even use me at all. Cool.
I'm sure he still got paid. He was probably like, all right, well, that's what it is.
Yeah. He got money for sure, but it's just
no, it sucks for sure, especially because the movie got so successful. Yeah, and he could have been an interesting character maybe in the sequel, but I guess not.
Now, onset injuries, because there's always an onset injury.
Oh boy.
McAvoy broke his hand in one of the scenes where he's supposed to punch a metal door, but he missed the soft section of the door and just full force into the hill.
Oh, did they keep the take at least?
I don't know. He broke his hand, so.
Yeah, was it like a Tom Cruise Fallout type thing where he broke his ankle and then that's in the movie?
Yeah. I don't think so. I don't, to be honest, remember a scene where he punches the wall or punches the door.
Yeah, neither do I.
I don't either. Maybe because he broke it, so they took it out.
Like, okay, so we're not having him do that again.
Yeah.
Now, with a lot of M. Night Shyamalan projects, he funds the movie himself. He does that a lot, and I do have to give him props. Like, he doesn't have a studio like telling him what to do during the process. There's not a lot of studio interference because he pays for everything himself. So he crowdfunds, he does all that kind of stuff. And give or take, what do you like about his movies? Some of them are good, some of them are not, in my opinion. But like, I do have to give him props that every project is his own. It is what he set out to do. It is his vision, whether you like it or not.
Totally. Yeah. And I think on IMDb it was saying that the budget for this movie is only $9 million, which like is crazy for how good it looks. Yeah. And I know even up until Cabin in the Woods, like he's self-funding even to this day. Like he's putting mortgages on his homes and stuff to get these movies made, just probably to mostly just avoid studio, because he's doing things that are a little different, right? And I agree, like love him or hate him, like I just always respect the movies that he puts out because they are so originally his. And not everything works all the time. There's stuff in this movie, there's stuff in pretty much every M. Night movie that I'm just like, really, was that the choice we were going to go with? But overall, they just have like such a distinct sort of look and feel to them. And the filmmaking is still always really, really top notch. There's like this famous cover of like Entertainment Weekly or something like that from like the 90s after Sixth Sense. And like the big headline on it is a photo of M. Night Shyamalan. And then the headline says the next Spielberg. And it's just, it's so interesting, like how at that time, like during Sixth Sense and that run of Signs, Sixth Sense and Unbreakable, like there was just this run there where like, these are he was like the Nolan of the 90s at that time of just like, this is what everybody wants to see. And then it kind of like really fell off, and he has his own little following now, obviously. And I think Cabin in the Woods was fun. Old was even had its moments, but Split was definitely, I would argue, his most successful since that run, right?
I think so. I mean, there was like The Visit.
I remember that he tried that found footage thing. Yeah. Yeah.
And like, I remember seeing that in theaters and I mean, the plot twist in that movie, if anyone's seen it, I thought it wasn't bad. It was kind of a like creepy plot twist. You're like, woo. Yeah. But I mean, the film overall was kind of just like, kind of forgettable. There was one thing I remember from it, and it's like a naked old lady, I think, is in it. And like, that's the only thing I remember from that movie because it was scarring. Yeah, I was like 15 when it came out. I was like, oh my God. Like, but yeah, I mean, I can't think of much else, honestly, like that was as successful as what we were just talking about.
Cabin in the Woods is probably his most since, like, and that I don't even think it even comes close. Oh yeah,
Isaiah just watched it too.
Yeah. Did you like Cabin in the Woods?
I thought it was cool. It was good. Like,
it had moments. Yeah.
It was an M. Night movie.
Yeah, I don't know what the plot twist per se for that movie would be, but it wasn't terrible. Like, I was like, this, I kind of got what I expected. So I give that
for sure.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting about M. Night movies, like I was saying before, like, is the beast real or not? And like, not to get into what happens in Glass and whatever. And like the fact that like even Bruce Willis's character in Unbreakable, is he actually a superhero or is it like some sort of like thing of luck? Like I like that. And I feel like within Cabin in the Woods, like the fact that if you haven't seen Cabin in the Woods, sorry, I'm about to ruin the ending, but by the end of it, it's just like, yeah, it's true. Like they are the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse and the apocalypse was about to happen and they have to sacrifice someone in their family to save the whole world. Right. And so like that in itself is a twist. Cause I think throughout the whole movie, you're trying to think of rationally. You're like, obviously there's some explanation for why these people are behaving this way. And, I don't know why, but throughout the movie, you're just trying to, your rational brain always kicks in first in terms of against the fantastical. Right. So the fact that he just leaned into it entirely being like, yeah, this is like a Bible type story. I was like, that's interesting. Like it's a swing. It's a choice. Right. And maybe it would have been cheesy if it ended up being like some sort of like fake cult or something like that. Right. So it's his thing and he sticks to it. And I don't know. I like it.
My issue with Knock at a Cabin is the same thing I have with this movie is that I feel like the going back and forth, like of being like, is it real or is it not? The argument feels too one-sided on the it's real. Like I don't feel like the trying to convince you that it's not real. I feel like those parts aren't as strong as the parts that are trying to convince you that it is real. So you end up getting convinced that it's real kind of early on, and you kind of just roll with that because then the parts that are trying to convince you that it's not real is just not as strong as you're like.
And then do you feel like you're let down by the end because it ends up just being real because you almost want it to twist back at the end there and be like, oh yeah, at the last second you're like, oh, it was all they're in a VR or something, right?
Yeah, like I kind of expect it to be. I want to keep guessing. Like I want to be kept on the edge of being like, is it real or not? Like I want to be at the end of it. I want to be towards the end being like, oh crap, am I still wrong about this? Have I been tricked?
Yeah. And that's so interesting to think about because like how does Shyamalan ever break away from that? You know what I mean? Like does he have to do some like really like normal, straightforward beginning, middle, end type movies that just don't have any sort of like even hint of a twist? Because I don't know how you ever like recondition an audience to expect anything else from him at this point, right?
That's literally like, that's his shtick basically at this point.
It's like a blessing and a curse.
The M. Night Shyamalan twist, yeah,
it's crazy.
It's like now it's expected. Do you have any other facts, Isaiah, or is that the last one?
No, I have some more.
Cool.
During testing, Bruce Willis appearing at the end of the movie actually was cut from the film during all the screen testing and all the pre-production, all that kind of stuff.
Very smart.
It actually wasn't revealed to the public until the 2016 Fantastic Fest and 2016 AFI Festival, where everybody actually saw that it was part of the same narrative universe, that Bruce Willis was there and that Unbreakable was the prequel, quote unquote, technically.
That is pretty awesome.
Yeah, so nobody knew. Everybody was like, this movie's pretty good. And then they showed it at AFI and they're like, oh my God.
I can't imagine the reaction.
Now, for my final fact, get ready for this one. Kevin is actually based on a real person.
Oh.
Okay.
Interesting.
His name is Billy Milligan. He became the first person in the history of the United States to be acquitted of a crime. He suffered from what is now known as dissociative identity disorder, also called multiple personality disorder at the time. After being admitted to a mental facility in Ohio, he was diagnosed with 24 personalities, 13 of them being undesirable, which committed crimes that I will not go into because they're kind of bad.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so the undesirable personalities had committed a series of crimes, and he was acquitted and sent to a mental hospital instead because they realized, oh, well, the person, Billy himself, isn't the person who committed the crime. It was another personality.
Wow. That's crazy.
Wild.
That kind of stuff always has been like so fascinating to me, like psychology and everything. Like I took a psych class in college and I actually contemplated doing psychology as my like major and everything. Thank God I didn't, because I am in no state of mind to help other people with mental health, let alone myself. But yeah, I've always found that like so fascinating how the mind works, and we still like the fact that our own brains don't fully understand themselves is crazy to me.
Wild, yeah. That's why Mindhunter is one of my favorite shows of all time.
Oh yeah,
so good. Yeah.
I'll watch. I love watching a lot of like true crime documentaries, just because it's just so fascinating to watch the minds behind some of these people.
Yeah, it's wild.
That do these insane things. But anyways, I digress.
Mhm.
Well, thank you, Isaiah, for your facts today. Those were pretty good. I
Thank
I think I only knew of one, so
There you go.
congrats. You stumped me. uh Now let's jump into our franchise breakdown, where we discuss the film, what we thought about it, and what we would rate it on a scale of 1 to 5. Patrick, do you want to go first since you are our lovely guest?
Sure. Yeah, no, I like this movie a lot. It's not something I rewatch regularly, but if it was something that was on TV or something like that, if I was flipping around and it came on, I would have no issue sort of diving in at certain any point. I think the biggest root of that is James McAvoy's performance. And I think the filmmaking is really strong. The cinematography is really good. This is sort of like Anya Taylor-Joy's sort of breakout too with The Witch. I think it was around the same year it came out too. So it's sort of like a big moment for her career. And she's fantastic in this movie. I think one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie is when she first gets kidnapped, that whole sequence in the parking lot in the car.
Yeah.
I love the way that it's so good. I love the way the camera is like sort of almost like a one take. It just keeps looking around like in a POV sort of fashion. I've always found like a lot of inspiration in the way M. Night Shyamalan moves the camera. Some of it's still cheesy. I never loved how like Shyamalan likes to put himself as a character in his movies.
Yeah,
and like sort of being the security kind of like hacker kind of guy was just like not a good fit for him. And some of it drags a little bit too. I feel like there's like a lull point around the middle. Like I'm just like, especially when you start meeting the psychiatrists and stuff like that. I'm like, when they're outside of like the basement sort of world, I find it a little bit slow. But I honestly, this is just because of McAvoy's performance and sort of Shyamalan kind of coming back in a strong point. I'd easily give this movie like a 3.5 out of 5 for sure, if not a 4.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a solid rating.
Yeah.
I also rated it a 3.5 out of 5. So we're on the same boat there.
Beauty.
I agree. I think that James McAvoy definitely is a huge factor as to why this movie did so well. Again, I'm not a huge Anya Taylor-Joy fan, but
he doesn't like her, and I'm disappointed.
I think she's a fine actress. I just don't get why people think she's like this beautiful woman. I think she's okay.
I think she was good in
on it.
That chess show. What was that chess show? The Queen's Gambit. I like that a lot.
Gambit.
I think she was horribly miscast as Peach in Super Mario. I felt like
I don't know what that was about.
I don't know what that was about. That was such just a flat performance in my opinion. But I find her very. I really love The Witch. The Witch is one of my favorite movies. And so I think I like her in that film, and I liked her in The Northman too. But she has like a style and a vibe to a type of movie, and if with the right director and the right team, I think she works quite well, and I think she worked in Split.
Yeah, no, I think her performance overall was good. I think she's a good actress. Isaiah and I disagree on looks. That's really she's not my type of girl.
I just don't like her face.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Her personality's great.
Yeah, just don't like her face.
Yeah, but coincidentally enough, this was a Blumhouse production that I actually don't hate. I typically tend to get very wary of Blumhouse productions. I just feel like for the most part, specifically like horror films done by them, because they tend to gear towards horror films or kind of like thriller, drama kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And a lot of their productions just feel very cliche to me and very like there's not a lot of care or like love put into it. It just feels like, here's another way to make money. Let's just shoot that one out. But there's been a couple good ones in there.
You know, Blumhouse did The Visit too with Shyamalan.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep. They did do The Hunt. I did enjoy The Hunt. Isaiah and I watched The Hunt, I think, right?
Yeah, that was
funny. That was so funny. So bad, but so funny. There was quite a few, but I'm blanking on the others.
I never watched Megan. Megan was sort of like their last big one, right?
Yeah.
The robot. I haven't watched that. Yeah.
Something about like AI killer doll things. Never really. I've never seen Chucky.
Never been same. I'm not into it at all.
I did like Annabelle though. Annabelle's definitely Annabelle 2 specifically is my favorite.
Nice.
Which I know a lot of people didn't like Annabelle 2, but that's my favorite one.
Also, in the Ouija, because we talked about earlier, the second one, Ouija Origin of Evil. This is crazy, but it's actually very good. It's a Mike Flanagan movie. Who also did like
I love
Dr.
Mike
Sleep.
Flanagan.
Yeah, and it's his first sort of like big kind of horror movie, and it's so well made. There's no reason why anybody would ever think to watch the second Ouija movie because I've never even seen the first one. But I found out that Mike Flanagan did, and I watched it. And I was like, "Fuck, this is really good." Yeah. So if you ever get a chance, watch Ouija Origin of Evil.
He also did Haunting of Hill House, which is one of probably, in my opinion, the best horror. Like I would put
show.
Even like, I think it's one of, like, if I had to compare it to horror movies I've seen, I think it beats most of them. It's just so well done.
He's really, really good. Yeah. Yeah.
He is a sucker for long monologues, though. I will say that.
What was that show he just did recently? Yeah. There was a show he just did for Netflix, and for some reason I'm blanking on the name of it. But
Club.
Yeah, is that what it was? Not even Midnight Club. There was one before that.
Midnight Mass.
Midnight Mass. That's the one.
Yeah.
And I think I got to like so many monologues.
So many. I'm not gonna lie.
It became a meme. Yeah, it became a meme. I was like, oh my god, here we go. Like the camera's slowly zooming in on this guy. Now he's gonna fucking tell his whole life story here.
He is a really good director when it comes to like horror and everything. Like I really like his work. I actually really loved Midnight Mass. I recommend it to a lot of people. It's really good. Yeah, it is. But I always warned them. I'm like, listen, it is a slow burner. Yeah. You have to get through like 3 or 4 episodes. Yeah. And then it gets really fucking good. Yeah. And even then, once you're in like the 4th or 5th episode, there's still like monologues. But yeah, it's one of his. It's not. I wouldn't even say it's a downfall. It's just one of his things.
It's like a crutch or something he leans on. Just like I'm gonna lean in on the right. I'm gonna go hard on the keyboard for this one here.
Yeah. But anyways, this was a Blumhouse movie that I didn't totally hate. I think that the Beast transformation was done very realistically, because they could have gone. M. Night could have gone all out, and he could have had like, bones sticking out and like gained like all this muscle out of nowhere and had like horns. Like he could have gone very ridiculous with it, but instead he just enlarged the veins, dilated like the pupils, maybe had him a little bit bigger, but nothing like over the top. And it felt very like, okay, yeah, that guy is not inhuman. I mean.
Yeah, it's enough to like still make your rational brain kicks in. He's like, maybe it's just a psychological thing that he's doing. Like he's just flexing really hard. Like what's going on here? Like
he's just flexing.
Yeah. You're not totally, your suspension of disbelief doesn't go entirely out the window for you to be like, oh, obviously this is now like fantasy. Like he's actually,
it's like the Hulk transformation,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think actually M. Night's like sort of like underrated for like body horror type stuff too. Cause this is like, he kind of really pushed it in Old. There's a really good sequence in Old, whether you like that movie or not, with like them going into that cavern and there's like this like creepy woman that ages and she like her bones all break and stuff. And there's like, it's like really good like body horror stuff that like he doesn't do it often, but when he does do it, it's like, it's really good. He has his own like really interesting way of doing body horror that I really like.
Body horror is right up Isaiah's alley.
Nope.
There you go.
Yeah. He hates that stuff.
Not a Cronenberg fan. Yeah.
I Saw.
I can't do Saw. I was going to watch like Crimes of the Future, but like I saw some of the like scenes and I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this.
If you're not into that kind of stuff, definitely avoid any Cronenberg. Yeah.
Because like I'll be walking by, like I'll be in the projection booth walking by, like checking on projectors, and like Crimes of the Future will be on, and I'll be like a split second, I'm like, oh, that's not something I wanted to see. That's gonna traumatize me for the rest of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now this is my second time seeing this movie, but I hadn't seen Unbreakable before. Nice. Watching Unbreakable, like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago at this point, or a week ago, and then watching this, the ending makes so much more sense. Because I remember seeing Split and I was just like, who am I supposed to know who this guy is? Like, what's going on?
The best part is like, and like, this is like a deep cut, but like I knew as soon as the music kicked in, I was like, oh my God, it's the Unbreakable theme. Like, I'm sure there's not a lot of fans.
Dude, that music is awesome. Music,
but it's so good. Yeah, I think it's James Newton Howard did that score, but it's so good. It's got like an R&B almost like beat going to it. It's awesome.
It's so catchy. It gives me like almost like I don't know how to explain it, but kind of like a cyberpunky vibe for some reason.
It's a really, really good score. Yeah. Shyamalan always has like a really good score. Yeah.
Every time it comes on, I'm like, I just can't help but like bob my head to it. But yeah, the ending, I was like, oh, okay. Now I know what's going on. My only issues with the film really was like the cliche edge girl that like is cool and not like the rest of them, and that's why she survives. Like she's like quiet at the parties and doesn't talk to them because like they just don't understand her. Like I was just like, oh, that's such a cliche. Like
I have a feeling you're missing the point of that.
no, I do. I'm not saying towards the end of the film. I'm talking about like the first 15 minutes of the film and stuff where she's just like not talking to them and stuff. And like,
I guess it's cool that he subverts that. By the end of it, they subvert that expectation, right? Because I think what's funny is your brain associates her with that kind of person, right? And then I guess by the end, you sort of realize she was abused and stuff as a kid, and that's why they kind of right.
It makes more sense towards the end for sure.
But you're right. At the beginning, you're kind of groaning. You're like, oh, well, she's like the edgy.
Yeah. Now I know we were just hyping up the car scene, which I still think is very well done. But let's be real for just a second here. If someone comes into your car,
you don't really react that way.
You don't really just stare at them. You get the fuck out of that car.
Sir, you have the wrong car. No.
Yeah, I wouldn't just like, excuse me. I'd be like, I would probably scream and run out of the car and be like, screaming just to get someone's attention so that like I have a witness if something were to happen kind of thing.
Totally.
But like, I wouldn't just be like, excuse me, like, what are you doing? Like, that's just, to me, that's just not,
Also,
I understand
like
freezing.
Yeah.
Like what Anya did, like she just froze and just couldn't move. Like I understand that reaction, but just being like, excuse me, you're not supposed to be here or whatever. Like that's just a weird reaction to have to that. And like they gave him enough time to grab the spray and put the thing up and not just being like, whoa, what are you doing? Or like get out of the car or like unlock. I don't know. There was just a few points where I was like, all right, you could have escaped like 5 different times.
Yeah. Guys. Also, was that mask enough to stop that spray? You know what I mean? That was like he was doing drywall afternoon, right? Like,
and he sprayed it and then he just immediately took it off. Like it's not in the rest of the, like it didn't just go into the rest of the car.
Like if COVID taught me anything, those particles are floating around like crazy after that. Pretty good.
Yeah, dude, where's your N95?
Yeah, exactly.
I think also that so 2 things. One, it's a good thing she knows how to use a shotgun. That came in handy. And then also, so when the 2 girls get separated, I don't remember their names, sorry, but the 2 girls get separated from Anya and they get put into rooms side by side. They didn't think to try to look for a way to escape sooner. They just kind of like, we're like, oh, this is it. Yeah. Lay here for the rest of our lives. And then they had to wait for like the therapist to come in. They're like, oh, we should try to look for something now. It's like, why didn't you do that first place?
Right away. Yeah.
Yeah. Those were just like the little kind of like dumb horror movie things that I caught on where I was like, where it's like, oh, I can't do this. And there's a lot of things in horror movies where they do that, where they kind of just dismiss logic so that the movie can progress, kind of a thing.
Totally.
But to me, that doesn't really make it a bad movie. It's just little things that I note down. I'm like, that's silly.
There's things you got to just like shrug off to keep the ride going. It's like the problem with like cell phones in every movie now, right? It's like how many things would end if they had an iPhone, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or like where they just like hang up on the person while they're talking. They don't even say bye. I'm like, okay, no one does that. It's just movies. Yeah.
It's just movie logic. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, overall, I think it was definitely one of those guilty pleasure films where it's like, you can't help but love it. So yeah, 3.5 for me. I feel like I've been rambling on. So Isaiah, why don't you tell us what you thought?
You guys made some good points. I agree with most of them. I don't have much to add. I do think that there was like subtle clues that they kind of threw in there. And I think since this is the second time I saw the movie too. The first time I saw it was in theaters when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as you're watching it again, you're like, oh, I didn't pick up on that little like subtlety the whole time that she's wearing like multiple layers of clothing because, you know, she's got scars. So
yeah, that's true. I didn't think of that. I just made that connection now.
Yeah, like I didn't notice that the first time around of being like, oh, she has multiple layers of clothes. That there's a reason to that.
Yeah.
Or the fact that like she has long sleeves, but it's like the middle of summer. So
yeah.
So, you know, stuff like that. And yeah, James McAvoy really steals the show of just him being able to play multiple characters at once, of him just jumping. He's basically jumping off of himself to do different things, which I think is crazy. And I definitely don't see anyone else being able to do that. Like, yeah, Joaquin Phoenix is a great actor, but being able to switch characters right off the bat and then also be Hedwig, I don't think I could take Joaquin Phoenix seriously doing Hedwig. I really don't.
Yeah, that's true. That is a very good point there.
But yeah, I think he did an amazing job in this movie. Probably would not have been the same without him. Yeah, I give it a 3.5 out of 5 as well, because I agree. It's a solid movie, but as I mentioned before, I mentioned that like it doesn't convince you otherwise of it being real or not. Like you kind of go in, it kind of convinces you. It kind of like, oh, is this real? And then you kind of get on the side of, oh, this is real. And then the more of the side of being like, it's not real, it doesn't just, the argument isn't strong. And so you kind of tend just to believe that, oh, we're going to be real. So there's not really a like surprise at the end. I feel like if, like with Knock at the Cabin, if both arguments were as strong as each other, like if they were equal, then I'd be guessing the whole time and I'd be like, oh crap, which is it? Is it true or not? If that was like the aspect he was going for. It felt like that was the aspect he was going for. I don't if it wasn't, then I kind of feel like that's what came off of, and maybe he wasn't trying to do that, but that's how it felt. But yeah, so 3.5 out of 5. So still a great movie, but some pacing issues, some writing issues, something like that. That's about it.
Okay, I have a question. Do you think it makes Unbreakable a better movie or a worse movie?
I don't think it does anything.
You keep so like I always find it interesting. Like if you rewatch movies, like you can go rewatch like Cillian Murphy movies now, and now that you see him in this like celebrity A-list star kind of thing from Oppenheimer, it almost like rejigs your knowledge in the way you experience other films that he's been in the past. So I always find it interesting when like now that Split exists in the world, right? We know that there's this now universe of like superhero-esque characters that Bruce Willis occupied in Unbreakable. It almost like it's impossible to sort of like separate the two movies, in my opinion. This is the way I sort of experienced it. But I agree that I almost feel like in this specific case, I can actually separate Unbreakable entirely from Split, mostly because I know Split leads to Glass, and I really didn't enjoy Glass. So I have to kind of see Split as its own movie, which then forces me to see also Unbreakable as its own movie. But I still always get really stoked at the end when Bruce Willis shows up in Split, because I'm like, that's just cool to see him again in that character. And then I just have to forget that Glass exists.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I mean, I think that I feel like not having seen Unbreakable before I saw Split.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It kind of changed since I technically saw Split, then Unbreakable, then Split again. I wouldn't say it really changed my opinion on either film.
Nice.
I still kind of see them as standalones with just a weird cameo in it, But maybe once I see Glass, I'll change my mind on it.
Yeah.
That's how Shyamalan sees it. He doesn't consider Unbreakable to be a prequel.
And I kind of like that.
Yeah, same.
It's like you can watch either one on their own. And it's like, that's kind of what I wish. I wish Marvel and like Disney and Star Wars would kind of do now, where it's like, you don't have to watch every single thing for it to make sense.
Yeah. I think early Marvel does that, where like the movies were on their own and you can watch them all like separately. And the only thing you kind of needed to know, if you watch the other movies, there'd be like a moment or two where you'd be like, oh, I get that because I saw the other movie. But like if you didn't see the other movie, it would not matter. You would still enjoy it, which I think is not something MCU could do now. They're too deep in their own stuff.
But I think to James Gunn's credit with Guardians 3, like I was sort of surprised how standalone that movie was, right? Like obviously you need to know. Still. Yeah, like there's certain things you need to know from like Avengers and stuff like that for like Gamora's character specifically, but as a whole, like it was really interesting to me how standalone 3 is, and not trying to be this interconnected. And this isn't spoiler. It's just not trying to be this interconnected thing with every other movie. And that's a reference to that, and that's a reference to this character, and you're going to see them do their own thing. And I'm sure there will be a bunch of stuff that spins off from this and new characters and whatnot. But yeah, as long as you've seen the other Guardians movies, it's almost like you could actually just watch the 3 Guardians movies as their own 3 things. And for the most part, get a pretty decent look at that as a trilogy on its own. Like James Gunn's been really good at like even so far down the MCU line. And to be honest, I didn't even really love Guardians 3, but I really respected how standalone it was in its own distinct little story that was small, because we just had so much garbage for the last little while. It wasn't Quantumania. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't just trying to be this ginormous pile of crap. Yeah.
Well, anyways, thanks everyone for listening to today's episode. And of course, thanks Patrick for joining us once again.
It was a pleasure.
Yes. Do you have any new projects since the last time we spoke that you kind of want to plug real quick?
No, I'm working on a
quote plug Patrick.
Yeah, I mean the channel's still sort of all about movies and stuff like that. I'm actually working on a video about Twister, everyone's favorite.
Oh my god, I used to have a legitimate fear of that movie.
Nice.
Or just of Twisters, like of tornadoes in general. Like you couldn't say the word around me. So
that's
I don't
so
know
funny.
I don't know if I can watch that video.
I saw that movie very young, and it just had like a really like hard lasting impact on me as like a filmmaker and just a lover of movies. So I've been working on a big video just like breaking down why I think it's like actually low key one of the best action movies that's been made in the last maybe 20, 30 years. So not longer. Yeah. And also like, Phil Hoffman's in it. Like it's just such an amazing cast, and it's so well made. And it's like one of Jan de Bont's like last directorial movies, because he took a break after doing the Lara Croft, the Tomb Raider movie. So yeah, I think it's really interesting to see like a cinematographer make a movie, and that's why I want to do a whole video on Twister, and I've been working on it. So that'll be coming up soon. Otherwise, find me everywhere but Threads. No, I'm on Threads too, but it's Adam Patrick and we can chat more about whatever you want on all these different crazy apps that we have to be on at all times.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. But definitely go check out some of his work and go follow him on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, apparently.
TikTok, whatever.
Yeah. While you're at it, be sure to follow us as well if you haven't already, so you can get the latest updates on upcoming episodes and future guests. Also, we've been receiving tons of movie suggestions from you guys, so thank you for your suggestions. If you haven't already sent them in, then go ahead and send your movie suggestions in at silverscreensips@gmail.com. And we will review them in our next listeners episode and give you a little shout out, so you can write a little message if you want. And thank you again, Patrick, for being here. Guys. And of course, we will see everyone next week with Glass. Oh boy. Given the hype around it from Patrick, I don't know if it's good.
Have fun with that one.
Oh boy.